Welcome everybody to this fourth Tuesday Dhamma program jointly between the Dhamma Darini and the Wat Budana Sorn Tuesday Dhamma group. Um, I'm going to open the words for the regular chanting, which is done on these occasions. The computer is mysteriously slow, but I think we'll be all right. I welcome all of you to put your hands in Anjali and direct your attention to the rupa that you can see on the screen or the one that you have in your house, and bow 3 times, giving respect to the triple gem. Reciting together. Araham Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Suparipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Yeti piso Bhagava Araham Samma Sambuddha Vingyakarana Sampanno Sukatolo Kavidu Hanumtaro Puisaram Sarti Samta Deva Manusanang Buddho Bhagavati Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Samdiktriko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanayiko Pachatam Veditambo Vinyuhiti Suparipanno Bhagavato Savakasamno Urupachipanno Bhagavato Savakasamno Nyaya-patipanno Bhagavato Savakasamno Samikkhipatipanno Bhagavato Savakasamno Yadidang Tari Purisa Yugani Atra Purisa Pumgalam Esa Bhagavato Savaka Samyaho Ahunayo Pahunayo Dakyonayo Anjali Karaniyo Anum Tarang Punya Ketang Loka Sati. Requesting the refuges and 5 precepts. Mayang Bahante Visung Rakanataya Tisarane Nasaha Panchasilani Yachama Dutiyampi Mayang Bahante Visung Rakanataya Tisarane Nasaha Panchasilani Yachama Tatiyampi Mayang Bhante Visung Rakanataya Tisaranena Saha Pamchasilani Yachama. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranang gacchami. Panatipada viramani Sikkapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana viramani Sikkapadang samadhiyami. Kame sumikchakchara viramani Sikkapadang samadhiyami. Musavada viramani Sikkapadang samadhiyami. Sura meraya majapamadatana viramani Sikkapadang samadhiyami. Sabapapa savakaranam kusala supasampada Sachitta Pariyodapanang Etang Buddhana Sasanang. Ananta Guna Sampannam Janeti Janaka Ubho Maihang Mata Pitunang Va Padevandami Sadaram Hetena Sachavanjena Sarasoti Bhavantu Me Pakcheracharya Honti Gunuttaranu Sasaka Panyavundikarete Dinnovare namamihang Hetena satyavanchena Hotu me kaya mangalam Sambe satta sukita hontu Avera hontu Ambya panja hontu Anika hontu Sukhiyatanang pariharantu. Dear friends, I had suggested as a theme for tonight unshakable meditation, which is at the ultimate level would be the normal practice of one who has had the breakthrough to wisdom, who has obtained their enlightenment, who is truly the sage at peace, or one who has not yet fully accomplished that breakthrough to the noble wisdom, may have the talent for meditation to be able to, during the time of their, especially during formal sitting practice, experience some degree or another of unshakability, that the mind is withdrawn from thoughts and worries, and that the sensitivity of the senses is withdrawn, so that different thoughts that may come along are not coming along and creating a disturbance, so that different sensations in the body are not coming to consciousness and making a disturbance, so that different external sounds or sights that might happen would not be penetrating into awareness, because the mind has withdrawn itself and is not paying attention to the five physical senses. When a person is able to go to that kind of meditation, we recommend that before sitting down to meditation, they should settle in their mind about when they're going to emerge from the meditation. Say you intend to meditate for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long you intend to be in meditation, and that you'll emerge at the end of that time. And even for those of us who are monastics, it's recommended that on entering into samadhi, we're supposed to make a determination to be willing to come out of meditation if there's a community meeting. So then it may seem funny, but if it's time for the Sangha to have some occasion to have a formal Sangha Kama, a formal meeting, then even if they ring the bell or go into the room and say, Bhante, please come for a meeting. We have to have a meeting now. If one is entered into that profound meditation with the senses withdrawn, they might not hear. So then one makes that determination to be willing to come out at the right time. For those of us who don't have the gift or the talent or the training or the experience of going into that kind of unshakable meditation, it is still can be true, and I know lots of meditators who have accomplished this, that they have a good meditation habit. They have the basic method of meditation that's effective for them, which they have learned and mastered. They have had enough transformation of psychology, I could say, so that throughout the day, they will be protecting the mind, protecting the tranquility of the mind by having an attitude towards the various things that come along during the day of not falling for upset or disturbance, or not falling into being carried away by sense desire, carried away by anger or resentment, carried away by restlessness or depression or sluggishness or skeptical doubt, not being carried away by conceit, not being carried away by getting excessively involved in their plans and projects, such that they allow greed to creep into the mind and to get established and take a foot. Instead, those people who really want to have that really stable meditation, they will have learned to live the day in a way which is supporting having stable meditation. And then they will have a regular habit of coming to the place of meditation, whether it's the meditation hall or whether it's a separate room in your house, or whether it's a corner of the house, or someplace that there's um, perhaps a devotional object where the um, eyes could rest on a Buddha Rupa or on a flower or something that will help to know this is a special place and a special time for meditation. And then take up that practice of meditation consistently again and again. And it can very often happen that the mind, while in meditation, can be really tranquil. If it so happens that during meditation, the mind is shaken up, shakable, unsteady or unstable, such that the excitation of the mind by the different things that a person has been thinking about or listening to or watching during the day, the different conversations that they've had during the day may have been so, caused such excitement in the mind that then those events start to like replay themselves in the memory, or that one is uh, troubled by remorse, or troubled by uh, sorrow, or any kind of emotional disturbance. And then because of those emotions, the meditation is not stable. Okay, so in that case, it's the right time to practice Vipassana style of meditation, practicing with the 4 foundations of mindfulness, to observe the unstable, variable, and changeable condition, or the things that's arising in the mind, to notice uh, how those experiences manifest in the body, what type of feeling is present, what state of mind is present, and to notice what Dhamma is present, in the sense that one could notice it as being uh, impermanent, uh, not self, dukkha. One could notice it as being um, um, experiences that are arising from a sense impingement with the 6 senses, uh, or noticing uh, just simply that um, not being able to um, control one's mind is uh, unsatisfactory, or not being able to control whatever it is. And because of that, uh, with all the love and kindness and patience in the world, one becomes disappointed or disillusioned with the process of the mind, the process of consciousness. And eventually, because of being, like, one gets tired of the constant show, and you become willing to put it down, willing to let go. And then the mind is then able to go into that stillness, or maybe able to go into stillness for a little while. And then the thoughts come up again, and then one um, can notice it with all the kindness in the world, but seeing it really how it really is, and becoming disappointed or disillusioned, and becoming willing to let that go and go to stillness, and let the mind again go to stillness. Um, so in order to um, practice for peace, which is the theme that we're trying to develop during this Vasa, I hope that all of us can make our minds become more peaceful. And my belief is that uh, making the effort to practice tranquil meditation, to come to stillness in meditation, is a very important part of having a peaceful mind, um, to convert our psychology, to have um, a peaceful, to be a peaceful person with a peaceful mind. So, having given all of this instruction at the get-go, now I'd like to invite sitting for meditation. And I think this time I will not give guided meditation, but rather invite each of you to practice with directing awareness to the breath or whatever meditation procedure you have already learned, which is your basic meditation procedure. But sitting together, knowing that we're sharing this space with our Dhamma companions. Let's sit together in silent meditation for about, I'll say, 40 minutes. So, dear friends, we spoke a few days ago about the beginning of the sequence in the Upanishad Sutta, where, based on virtue, gladness arises, and then our pamoja. So it's pamoja, piti, pasadi in the Pali language. Pamoja is sometimes translated as joy or gladness, and then piti is sometimes translated as bliss, and then pasadi is sometimes translated as tranquility. So this peaceful meditation that I'm presenting as a part, an aspect of the practice of peace is based on knowing how to gladden the mind. For a person who's facing a lot of stress from whatever reason, whether it be internal or external, it can be sometimes difficult and a challenge to find that gladness. And so, if we're in a time of our life that we're not facing very strong and severe external or internal stressful conditions, then it's very worthwhile to be a little bit more kind of like conscious and aware about where gladness comes from for us, and to make it part of our intentional lifestyle. For example, people who are not in control of their own behavior, who are constantly falling into unskillful, unwholesome, harmful behavior, can then that can generate so much inner turmoil or inner instability in so many different ways that it can cause a kind of there's like a mental illness arising from that. I think nowadays in therapy didn't used to be like in the like classical traditional psychology, but there's an aspect of the way I think therapy is done these days is that if helping a patient to become more aware of their ethical choices. Even one of my favorite psychologists is his name is Podvol, and he described several case histories of historical persons who had actually been psychotic, and without the benefit of modern psychotherapy, were able to somehow pull themselves out of psychosis and to come back to a normal life. And a tremendously important factor for several of those persons that were studied in those case studies was that they had compassion for other people who suffered in the same way. And they chose sanity because of the desire to help. And so then there was something like getting that, like a toehold of this generous wish or desire to help, the willingness to serve and help another was an essential part of being able to come out of that instability, of that severe mental problem. And so with less severe mental problems or psychological difficulties, it can certainly be the case that a simple case of serving and helping another human being, helping some animals, helping helping the temple, that this can help to turn the corner from a psychology that's, caught up in negativity to a psychology that's able to discover that joy, and then having the certainty or confidence about a more mature, like a kind of an ethic where one is really examined, and if you really know for sure that these kind of actions of the body, speech, and mind are supportive of happiness for oneself and others. And if you really know it and really investigate it so that it becomes then almost like a intuitive, it's not like an arbitrary rules and regulations that are imposed on one by society, but instead something that's deeply intuitive from one's own experience and knowledge, and then having that stability with a mature ethics is definitely clearing the way for being able to find that gladness, which then subsequently can mature into the peaceful and tranquil mind. I really appreciate in this group that we share with the Wat Budonasorn and Dhamma journey together, reciting the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts at the beginning of the class, because I have read in the suttas that the perfect confidence in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and the natural intuitive practice of the 5 precepts are the characteristics of one who is a stream winner, one who has gained the foothold on this wonderful path of training leading to full liberation. And so when I now having read this in the suttas and having confidence in the accuracy and the meaningfulness of the instruction that's given in the suttas, I truly feel that a person who has stream entry or who has any of the factors of stream entry, then when reciting the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts, they can feel so much joy, knowing, this is the state I have entered, is the state of a person who possesses these refuges and this virtue. And then if one doesn't possess the factors of either stream entry or any of the elements of stream entry, one can also rejoice and think this is like preparing the mind for stream entry, preparing the mind to gain this wonderful liberation that's offered to us, that the Buddha skillfully explained that's available for a normal human being to be able to follow these teachings and gain the results. In the a few places in the suttas and in the commentaries, they mentioned that the further precepts that are held by the monastics are not naturally held to perfection by somebody who has stream entry. So somebody who is following this monastic training may still have to make effort and have like hit or miss and has some failures along the way in keeping their 275 precepts or their 311 precepts, or not to mention actually if you include everything in the procedures of the Vinaya, it might be almost infinite. Like, and if you go to the commentary, maybe there's 84,000 moral precepts that one can try to keep them all to perfection. And but a conscientious person, whether they're a monastic or not a monastic, may find circumstances where perfection in every aspect of morality and deportment, it's not easy to obtain. However, that basic morality that's embodied in the 5 precepts, the love for not harming, not killing, not stealing, not harming somebody with one's sexuality, not doing a harmful or false speech, and not engaging with intoxicants, that level is can be obtained and in a certain way, you could say, like perfected. And there's a joy in that. So if one is feeling low and you want to bring some joy in your life, there's one of the contemplations, a protective contemplation that can be done, is the contemplation about one's sila, one's morality. And one can think, today I never intended to kill anybody. Today I didn't intentionally tell a lie. And with that, it's a way to gladden the mind. The practice of loving kindness, the Brahma Viharas, would be the second major kind of practice that certainly is conducive to knowing how to gladden the mind. If one is able to develop that practice and capable of bringing up the thought of loving kindness and do it often enough that it becomes habitual enough so that anytime in any circumstance it's possible to bring out the thought of loving kindness, or possible to take that as a theme of meditation or a theme of contemplation, and to sustain for a whole meditation period that thought of loving kindness, if that's the object, a particular meditation that one has chosen, that is by itself naturally a source of gladness. My understanding of PT are the strong bliss of meditation that can happen sometimes is very much related to the seclusion from the hindrances and the unification of the mind. So in a certain way, that bliss depends in a certain way on the opposite state. Like if one knows how stressful it is to be contending with any or all of the hindrances, or if one knows how stressful it is to have a distracted mind that's not capable of coming to unification in meditation, and then because of making effort, doing these practices and everything that we follow, especially using vipassana and the Brahmaviharas to work with those inner negativities as long as we have to contend with them. And then the moment comes when the hindrances are not present, and it's such a release, such a lift. I can describe an example. This is a different context. On one occasion, I was hiking by myself in New Hampshire, and this particular mountain that I was hiking over had been traveled and used by hikers and vacationers for many, many, many decades. So it so happened that it was quite windy at the top of the mountain. It was, when I started that day, it was peaceful, but then at the top of the mountain was very windy. But the trail was in a kind of a dip, so the trail was sort of like 4 feet below the level of the mountain, and so it was fine going along. But then at the very summit of the mountain, it was necessary to get out of that protection and be just out on the bare, rocky surface of the mountain, and I was I was not able to get over the mountain. It was like, my things were like in danger of blowing away, and every time like I tried to stand up, it would like knock me over, and it was actually, I couldn't do it. So what I had to do was to crawl, like not over the top of the summit, but sort of like around the edge of the summit on my hands and knees, because the wind was like so intense and so severe. And then on the other side, it got again into a section of the trail where there was a dip. And now it's so much more, one can be so much more in a way like in touch with one's emotions when hiking alone, and being, without a companion, because then it's just you and yourself and the forces of nature. So on attaining the safety of the trail on the other side, I had this amazing onset of bliss, which I attributed to actual physical danger, like the feeling like I could die, and then coming to the other side and saying, I'm not going to die today, I can live. And so that release. No, I'm not saying that I recommend, like in the Dhamma, this the desire to live is not what the Buddha is teaching us is going to be the way to our liberation. Actually, that's part of dukkha, is that we are constantly driven because of this desire to live, this desire to get more life. That's how we get to have rebirth, is because we want more life, and so we keep spending our whole life trying to get a little bit more life. And so then when we come to the end of this existence, if that's the dominant psychology that we have, that's how we go into another existence. But in that case, that physical danger, and then coming out of danger at that physical level, caused a tremendous release of a very blissful feeling. And I find it the blissful sensation that can sometimes occur in meditation is something like that, like when we know this, like samsaric suffering is like, it's so stressful, it's so discouraging, and to come into a state in meditation where one can say, well, oh, there is an escape. There's an escape. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's something else. It's possible. One does not have to be continuously, constantly just bouncing around between one hindrance and the opposite hindrance, between, love and hate, or elation and depression, or pleasure and pain. That this merry-go-round, it's not necessary, because there is something else. And so that's what my personal take on the piti of meditation. But then once that contrast is not so much a factor, then when the mind is unified in meditation, the passaddhi, or tranquility, can arise, which is said to be manifested as tranquility of the body and of the mind. So then we come to know how much of the stressfulness of the human body is coming from the mind, coming from our mental reactivity, mental restlessness, mental distraction. And that then, if the mind enters into that special state, that then it's possible for the body to relax and become deeply tranquilized in a way that then further supports being able to stabilize in the meditation. If one has access to find tranquility in meditation, then I think you could see how in day-to-day life, even when confronting people and situations that are not naturally peaceful, if one is face-to-face with people who are not sharing the same values, who are not peaceful, or if one is coming face-to-face with people who are struggling with their emotions or with their psychological distress, who are upset or agitated, or even not in touch with reality as the way that we know reality, that then because of having access to tranquility in meditation, it can create such a greater stability for us in what we might encounter in life, even if we, like ourselves, are feeling something that's sharply painful or sharply distressing or sharply depressing. You know that that's not the entire picture. That's only part of the picture. That there's more than that. And so then, when it's not necessary to be so reactive in the same way, because you already know that there is something different. You're not trapped in that kind of that stressful reality is not a trap anymore, because you know that there is a way out, and hopefully you've found out how to get there, to get part of the way as far as you are in following the teachings of the Buddha going towards liberation, or as far as you've gone in learning how to obtain the release from stressfulness through tranquil meditation. So these are my thoughts for tonight, and I'm, as you may know, the program on this Tuesday goes up until 9 o'clock, so I can be happy to hear if there are any comments or questions, including from the people here or from the people who are out there in visible to me through the miracle of the internet. I'd be happy to hear your personal experience with where you find gladness and where you find tranquility, or any questions. Okay, I'm going to call in Anagarmita Kanti.
So one thing that came up as a thought during the talk was when there's like, we know of all these terrible things happening in the world, how can we sort of allow ourselves to feel the joy and the gladness almost? Like, how do you just sit around and be happy when you know other people around the world are suffering quite profoundly? And that's also a question or a theme that's come up in some recent conversations with some of the guests here at the monastery.
First, we can aspire to be like a good physician who is not overwhelmed with distress about illness, but has a sufficient amount of detachment so that their goodwill and their applying the skill of a physician to help the healing process is able to go on, because their mind is not unbalanced because of encountering illness and death, even severe illness and death. Or we could say, I think some people in the room might be teachers, and that if a teacher, when they encounter all of the unskillfulness of students who don't yet know, if they allow themselves to become, horrified and disgusted by the mistakes that students are making, they wouldn't be able to be a good teacher. They have to be able to have that stability. It's actually, it's like it's even more important to not just be happy in the sense of escapism, but to bring joy to these horrible and difficult, painful situations. In order to, because otherwise, the whole world will not only be suffering from the physical results of, you could say, like, for example, war, death, and climate change, injustice, all of that, those things have all of their actual material results. But then we want to, if they also lose hope, then it's so much the worse. But if they can find, that this war, this destruction it's not the whole picture. It's part of the picture. If they can find that corner of hope, then it's possible to go through the most terrible situation without being psychologically destroyed by that. So it's even like more important for people who are in the midst of this terrible circumstance. If you could say, like, my country is falling beneath the ocean because of climate change, or my homeland is being, beset by the terrible floods and the weather, and my livelihood is being ruined. That if that's all there is, then we're really lost. But if a person realizes the significance of non-hatred, and if, like, protecting their internal wellness is important, both for their own life or to be able to do anything in these terrible circumstances, that it's even the more important in the middle of a war or in the middle of a terrible circumstance, to be able to find out how to locate that joy. That's my idea. I think I might have seen a question coming from the what?
Well, I actually, I was afraid that you
Hello,
were going
Sherry.
to
Your voice is
close.
extremely low. Can you do anything to make it louder?
Can you hear me now? Not really?
Yeah, you can. That's
Not
better.
very much. Well, I
That's
was
better.
honestly, I came on first because I was afraid you were going to close, and I wanted to make a reminder about the Saturday event. But as you were talking,
Yes, that's a good idea.
yeah, it came to mind something that I've heard. I've heard from other Buddhists about how to survive in that kind of situation where perhaps, like, we're very privileged. How can we feel good about that when, like, places like Gaza, where suffering is so extreme? And it seems to me that we need to, and what this some other people were saying, we had a discussion about this, was that first of all, of course, we need to share whatever we have. But second of all, and not be attached and be generous. But second of all, it seems to me that we can also be a place of hope for other people, and hold that in our hearts. If we're able to generate some gratitude for what we have, then we can also offer hope for people who are suffering. The fact that you're not necessarily physically in a conflagration like that, it can offer people who are hope. So just continuing to take care of yourself and to watch your own virtues, and just that was helpful to me. Just wanted to share that. And I don't
Thank
know.
you. Would you say a little bit more about the event on Saturday?
Yeah, we're having a wonderful day-long retreat with Ayya Sobhana right here at Wat Put Hanasorn in Fremont. So for some of us who it might be, I did want to ask you, I don't know, is it going to be broadcast, Ayya? Do you know?
If you've got the equipment, I'm happy to broadcast it.
Okay. So I'm not sure if we were going to be online or not, but we are going to be in person. And actually, the intent of this is to provide an in-person opportunity to practice extensively with Ayya Sobhana for like a full day. And I just wanted to invite everyone to come to Wat Put Hanasorn, the temple in Fremont. I believe Dhamma sent out an invitation yesterday or today. And so I'm hoping that you all were on that email list. And the retreat is from 9 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. And it's in the monastic tradition, there's no registration fee. But we will be collecting, we will be providing an opportunity for people to offer dana for the signage project at Dhamma, and I'll share a little bit more about that at the event. But we'd love to have all of you. And Ayya, would you mind mentioning the topic a little bit?
Well, it's actually the same topic that we've been talking about week after week in terms of this practice of peace. So I was going to try to, at least in summary, mention the three phases of the practice of peace, at the moral level, at the meditation level, and at the wisdom level, as well as having time for us to sit together and do some meditation.
So I think it's really wonderful to be able to practice for a full day. You know, it's good to come for an hour or two on a Tuesday evening, but it can help us really integrate into our daily life if we have a little more intensive practice. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Richard.
Thank you, Ayya. Going back to the previous, is it Anagarika's question?
Yes.
Oh, so in the middle length discourses, the Saleka Sutta, Saleka means like effacement, like wearing away. Number 8, part 16, the way of extinguishing. Buddha's talking to a person named Chunda. Buddha says, Chunda, that one who is himself sinking in the mud should pull out another who is sinking in the mud is impossible. That one who is not himself sinking in the mud should pull out another who is sinking in the mud, that is possible. That one who is himself untamed, undisciplined, unextinguished should tame another, discipline him, and help extinguish is impossible. That one who is himself tamed, disciplined, extinguished should tame another, discipline him, help extinguish, is possible. And it says, so too, a person given to cruelty has non-cruelty by which to extinguish it. One given to killing living beings has abstention from killing living beings, which to extinguish it. And a few other things, and then he, there's quite a number actually. And then he ends with one given to adhere to his own views, who abides, holds on to them tenaciously, and relinquishes them with difficulty, has non-adherence to his own views, not holding on to them tenaciously, and relinquishing them easily by which to extinguish it. So in Buddhism, we have the basic understanding that, our first duty is to stop all this, I don't know what you call, like, negativity ourselves. And then once we have accomplished that, once we have extinguished those, we have done that, then we're in a true position to help somebody else, do the same thing. And that's why the Buddha, in the very beginning of his ministry, when he had 60 arahants, which he accomplished in a very relatively short period of time, he then sent them all out, including himself. He said, and I'm going to go out too. He says, let no two take the same path. Everyone go out and teach the Dharma now. But these were fully extinguished. That's what extinguished means. They were full arahants. So they were capable of going out and helping others, attain the same state. Now, the last section where it talks about holding on to views, one holds on to his own views or their own views, to, sex difference doesn't matter, their own views. This is sometimes misunderstood. Right view is not one's own view. Right view is understanding things rightly. That's the universal correct view, okay? When it talks about one's own views, they're talking about, whatever one has sort of like just come to various conclusions based on their education and experience and everything in their own life, which may or may not be connected to in any way, shape, or form right view. Right view is a totally separate category. And the reason I mention this is because I heard I won't mention any names, but I heard an extremely famous bhikkhu one time lecturing on this idea of not holding on to your views. And he was implying that, even if your view is the right view, don't be so, hung up on it. If you're in a certain situation and maybe someone who on the surface is considered superior to you, maybe someone who's had more vasas, a bhikkhu who's had more vasas, you're supposed to just listen to what they say. But that's, I'm sorry to say, that's a completely erroneous idea. Right view is right view, and whoever holds it is holding right view. But still, it's necessary for us to free ourselves from the mud, and then we can reach back, and help others, get out. Is what Buddha is saying there. Anyways, maybe that will be helpful, maybe not. But thank you for listening.
Thank you. At the very beginning, or I should say in the second half, I was mentioning about how service or helping others could be a foothold to sanity, to recovering sanity. And sometimes I've read scholars debating or disputing whether or not when the Bodhisattva went on his quest for enlightenment, was he doing it in order to help gods and humans? Or was he seeking the answer just to find out the way to the end of suffering, as like an end in itself, without respect to giving up a benefit to others, or being of service to the world? Whatever the answer to that question is, we know that the Buddha served and served and served and served, that he spent, the following 50 years walking up and down India looking for people who would be able to understand what he was able to teach, and indeed was the one who had gotten to dry land and was able to reach down and help others to come out of the mud. So our joy is part of our path to safety, to finding the ground that we can stand on, from which it's possible to be of service to others who may not yet be there. I see Anana. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, this is something that I heard years ago. Change yourself, change thousands. So the ripple effect of one person having a calm, peaceful mind literally ripples beyond one's comprehension. So in order not to get bogged down with the suffering, not to lose sight of it, or not to lose one's compassion, but to really hold steady in the Dhamma and the peacefulness, as you have been pointing out over these many weeks, is really a key to having some kind of shift or change that might be, like a tsunami sort of. It's like, these things build and then all of a sudden it looks like, oh, all of a sudden everything changed. But it was incremental change over time that finally allow the forces to move sufficiently that a people can throw off a dictator or throw off someone who's invading, or powers that are beyond their ability to fight, quote unquote, with regular weapons, but certainly the mind and heart, in a wave of goodwill, in a wave of positive effect, really can shift things. So that's what I try to hold on to.
Thank you for that. I think that we've come to our time, so we can pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Araham Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivadimi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Suparipando Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Samham Namami.
Thank you, Ayya, for the lesson. We bow to our teacher.
Sambe Buddha Balabata Pachakanachi Arantana Jite Jana Rakan Bata Misanas. Thank you all for your patient listening today.
Good night, Ayya.
Thank you. Good night.